Every once in a while, I run across a product that I just want to share with all of my friends. Kind of shine a spotlight on it, so to speak. Now remember, I take no compensation and no free product from any manufacturer, so my opinions are my opinions. They're unbiased. Let's go see what's in the spotlight today. At last count, I've got 5 routers, if you count the one that's mounted in my router table. So it was a little extravagant and a bit of a luxury to purchase the Festool OF 1400 router. And to be honest, I had a little trouble getting used to the form factor. I'm really used to the old-fashioned routers with the 2 knobs on either side, the ones that sort of look like a weird robot head. But the fact is, once you get used to it and you think about the Festool router in conjunction with all the other Festool components, it's really great. And when you combine it with a guide rail and the guide stop assembly, it is a fantastic way to make Dados. Let's take a look. Alright, perhaps the best way to show how this all works and is set up is to disassemble this, and I'll show you the various components as we go along. First, removing the dust collection accessory, they've made it really easy because there's a latch here on the back that unlocks it, and in the front there's a little sliding window that opens so that you can get this past the router bit. Now, with some shorter router bits, that won't really be necessary to open that window. You should be able to just twist it and pull it out. But if you have a longer bit, it is easy to turn that window and open it. And then when you put it back in, just close that and you're all set up for dust collection. So let's take that out. And the next thing I want to show you is the foot or the shoe. I'm not sure what they call it, but that's over here on the other side of the base, and that's so that when the router is sitting on the guide rail, and of course this is up off the work surface, the foot or the shoe can be dropped down to the work surface to keep your router level as you're routing. Alright, now to remove the guide stop assembly from the router, just loosen this one thumb screw here and the whole assembly will slide right out. We'll set the router aside for a minute and we'll talk about just the guide stop assembly, this component right here. Now, as I mentioned in the other video, I like to run mine where the notches are riding on the 2 raised rails on the guide rail. To me, that gives more stability. However, you do lose the capability of using the micro adjust. And if you want to use the micro adjust, you simply set it up where just this assembly is riding on this raised section. And then to make a micro adjust, loosen this knob, and you can turn the micro adjust knob and it will move the rails in and out, which of course will be moving the router as well. I like to put mine over here. You can actually use the micro adjust to get your 2 blocks set up perfectly and then tighten everything down. And I like to have it where it's tight but moves without any play. Notice there's no play there. Now there is an adjustment underneath on both of these blocks. There are 2 screws that can be loosened or tightened to tighten these pads against the rails, also to eliminate slop. And that's really pretty much it to setting this up. Loosen the knobs and you can slide these rails out and these will just pack right into your systainer. And if you want to break it down even further, you can just pull these 2 pieces apart. So put these two pieces together, slide in the rails, and they don't have to be perfectly aligned, but I don't know, for aesthetic reasons I kind of like to get them about the same distance in there. Tighten those up, and now see, these are in there real sturdy. Get this set up where you want it. You'll have to loosen one of the knobs and put that down, and that feels about right. No play. And then you can take this and insert it into the router, just like this, into the base, and this knob is what tightens it up. And what I like to do is to get this set up where it's pretty close to the guide rail, but no chance of the bit actually hitting the guide rail. And just tighten that down snugly, and you're all set. Now all you have to do is just adjust the depth, which is pretty much like setting the depth stop on any other router, and you're ready to go. Reinstall your dust collection accessory. Snap that into place, close the little access window, and we're ready to route. Okay, once everything is set, if you're making your dados with one pass, in other words, if the bit is exactly the right size, all you really need to do is position the bit on one of your layout lines. Now, if you're making it in 2 or more passes, there's 2 different ways to adjust. You can unclamp your guide rail and move the entire guide rail, which is kind of my preferred way to do it most of the time. It may seem a little bit more difficult, but I have a couple of reasons for doing that. The other way to do that is to simply loosen this knob on the router and move the router itself until you get it lined up with your line. Either way works fine. I happen to move the guide rail for my own personal reasons. Maybe I just like to make my life harder, but you can do it this way and it works great. Just make sure that if you're only moving the router and the guide rail stays clamped in place, make sure that the guide rail is absolutely perfectly square to your workpiece, or you could have a dado that runs at a slight angle. Either way will work fine. So there we go. Pretty easy to set up, and it is a great way to make dados. This works really well on large pieces that you might not want to take to the table saw, or if you just don't want to go through the hassle of changing your table saw blade over to a dado set, or if you live in some European countries where dado sets are not allowed, this is definitely the way to go. It also works great on big sheets of plywood when you're building cabinet carcasses. It's a great way to make dados. So there we go. Easy to do. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments area, and I'll be happy to try to answer them. Thanks for watching.